Now, I dragged that on as long as I could.
Don't.
Because
You know what else was what else was dragged on long? Joel's death.
We said we were going to say the property before we spoiled anything.
I don't give a crap.
We're talking about The Last of Us. Obviously, that's the big spoiler for the episode, so I apologize. So if you have not seen the latest episode of The Last of Us, go watch it, but you already know what happens now. I watched this episode. Now it's been like 2 hours. I finished watching this episode about 30 minutes, maybe an hour before we filmed this, just because I unfortunately knew that Joel died in this episode specifically. I had not seen the clip or anything. I already knew he died from, it's the only spoiler I have from the video game. But I have never dreaded watching an episode of television more than I have dreaded watching this episode of TV. So I put it off until literally I was sitting there and I had two options. It was watch this episode and then immediately set up to start recording, or lie to Carson and the audience and y'all and say that I watched this episode so that I never have to watch this episode and just skip to the next episode of The Last of Us. And I chose the honorable thing in watching this episode, and I fucking regret it because I texted Carson right after I watched this episode. I almost puked. I legit, I am no hyperbole, no jokes, nothing. I was heaving watching the Joel's death scene. Not from disgust, it's not overly gory. Obviously it's pretty fucked up, but it's not you're not seeing brain matter or anything. It's
not like the game.
Was tears, obviously, and literally hunched over, heaving from how just visceral it was. This is one of the most devastating hours of TV I've ever watched, because one, it is me sitting there going, I know what happens at the end of this episode. I don't want it to happen, not knowing anything else that happens. And then while I'm waiting for Joel to die, this settlement is getting absolutely fucking destroyed. I didn't know if Tommy was going to die. I didn't know if anyone was going to die. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit, are we about to get multiple character deaths? Luckily, we didn't. It was only Joel, which was still fucking devastating. And if Tommy would have also died, I think I would have killed myself. I don't think I would have fucking made it. I would not be on this episode right now.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God, dude.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the Nerdy Nimrods podcast. We'll catch you next week. I don't really want to talk about this. I guess here we are. Look, I knew this was going to happen. Again, I watched the entire gameplay for the second game. I was there when people first discovered this plot choice. I was there to watch other people get upset, and I'm going to be here to watch other people get upset when I watch this episode with somebody who really cares about this show tomorrow, who has no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah,
it is extremely bold of a choice for not, I mean, a video game obviously, but for television. There are some shows that without spoiling it, because there's some shows I want you to do, but that I want you to watch, so I'll say the title of them and give examples. I think but Sopranos does this a lot with its characters, where you follow a specific character, you become so emotionally attached to them, and it just rips your heart out. Breaking Bad does the same thing. I've seen things from The Wire that do the same thing. Obviously, Game of Thrones does something very similar.
Yeah.
If I'm genuinely being honest, if you didn't know about a certain thing that happens in episode 9, I don't even like talking about stupid Ned Stark. But if you didn't know about Ned Stark's death, I genuinely think you probably would be acting the same way now that you would with Joel. And I think for a TV show,
I was still pretty destroyed when he died, even knowing that he was going to die. So one thing I will say, because that's an interesting point that you bring up, there has only been one other character death in the history of television that I knew was coming and still absolutely fucking destroyed me. And I'm not gonna even say the name of the show, but there is one character death in a TV show that I have watched that we will talk about one day, eventually,
Sure.
maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, but I will talk about it one day eventually, that I knew the character was going to die, and I will show pictures on the podcast of I took pictures of me when I watched this scene. Um, and that was only after I was able to compose myself enough to take pictures of myself, where I was so emotionally destroyed. I could not take pictures of myself after this, because for the first 10 minutes after this episode finished, I like was still about to vomit. Like, I still
Sure.
had that. It doesn't help that I admittedly ate dinner like 30 minutes before I watched this, which was a bad idea. But dude, I was hungry. I just got off of work. I had to watch 4 episodes of anime and Andor and Last of Us because I was behind. Because I was dreading
There's
this fucking episode so much.
I think the greatest example of this, and the only reason I'm telling you this is because you obviously know about this. This is something that's like cultural history, and I've quoted it to you several times. And I'm never going to make you watch this show, nor have you ever wanted to watch this show. So I don't even care that I'm telling you this now. But I think a moment that is exactly on par with this and equal is The Walking Dead with Negan Smith and Glenn
Yeah,
Rhee,
I've heard about
and
this. Yeah, I've heard about this.
the big baseball bat scene where Negan just takes a bat to Glenn's fucking head and bashes his brains in front of the group. That was a TV moment that for weeks people would just absolutely get upset about. People stopped watching the show after that, and I feel like here, for the same reason, people are going to stop watching the show because of the choice. But something that the game, here's why I think that they actually do it better here than in the game. One, it's not nearly as gruesome. Secondly, it's a
That was
lot.
one thing that I was a little appreciative of,
Yeah.
because I have not, I probably will go back and watch the scene in the video game now just to see the contrast, but I had seen like images and it was definitely way more gruesome, which was another reason I just was dreading this episode, is because I wasn't sure how far they were going to go.
Right.
Having known how gruesome the death was in the video game. And like, again, I can handle gore, but when you're watching a character that you love, I loved Joel. Pedro Pascal fucking kills it as Joel. And watching a
Yeah, he's
character
great.
that you love so much getting their like brutally bashed in, I just did not want to see happen at all. So I guess I'm a little
Sure.
glad that they tamed down a little bit, but like it was still gruesome. Like the shot of Ellie looking at him in his just destroyed, like brutalized face after
Yeah.
Abby is just wailing on him was still pretty like hard to look at.
Yeah, and I don't. They handle a lot better because also something they do a lot of things different from the game that they do here. One of the biggest things is Abby gives away a major part of her backstory that you don't get in the game until much later, which
Her
is that
dad.
the reason that Abby's been doing it is because her dad was the doctor that Joel shot in the head. In season 1, you get a long shot of the doc like lingering on the doctor lying on the ground, and I even remember watching like a reaction video for it, being like, oh, why are we lingering on that shot? It seems kind of unnecessary. Like, we've been here for like 10 seconds. All right, let's move on. Well, now there's a reason why. It is
Yeah.
Abby's dad, and they give that to you very early on, and it almost like it gives Joel more of a, I guess, not, it gives you as the audience more comfort for Joel dying, because whereas you don't want it to happen and you still want Abby to die, you completely understand now as the audience why this is happening. It's not just a needless, senseless murder. There is a reason and a motive behind it, and you completely understand why. And as much as you hate it, you can still look at this and go, okay. I mean, even Joel himself, like, as Abby's like is saying, like, look, you're unarmed, but I am gonna kill you because some things are just fucking wrong. And Joel nods, like, in agreement.
Joel
Like,
can't disagree. Like he
he just
understands.
he accepts his fate because he understands exactly where he's at. And that's honestly what makes his final line. Like, this is his final line. He knows he's going to die. He knows there's no escape. And so he literally just tells Abby to shut the fuck up and kill him. Like, it
Yeah.
is his final line, and that's what he says, which I don't know. Like, I feel a bit more of a comfort with Pedro Pascal. Like, it's like he's giving permission. Like, It's okay. Kill me. It's okay. And it's almost like he's giving it to the audience too.
See,
Like, it's okay. I'll be here.
I will say I predicted that the doctor was Abby's dad before it was revealed. Not
Yeah,
just because obviously we have the shot of her going into specifically the doctor's room. I
yeah,
kind of had an inkling. Again, I did not have this part of the game spoiled for me.
sure.
We obviously, it's very clear, and I'm pretty sure it's very clear in the game that she had early on that she has a connection to someone there. You just might not know who it is.
You just don't know
Um,
who. Right.
so that's why personally, I don't know what the like online reception is for it. I don't have as big of a problem as I feel like maybe some people are going to have with them revealing this early, because I think that you already know she has a connection in the video game. From my understanding, you already know she has a connection. Like there obviously is a reason she wants vengeance. So I think the
Yeah.
semantics of it, I think if you care about that, like that's fine. I'm not gonna judge you. I just, to me, finding out that it's the doctor's dad versus, here's the thing. I would have cared just as much, and I think her vengeance would have been just as justified, is if her dad or her brother or even like a boyfriend was one of the random gunmen that Joel shoots, because no matter what, he killed all of them. So I think that it being the doctor, to me, and maybe this is just a personal thing, doesn't necessarily make a difference. So since we already knew she had a familiar connection, finding out that it's the doctor, it's like, okay, cool. Now we know who it is, but it doesn't change the fact that she has that vengeance in her heart anyway. I don't know if you
I
feel differently on that, but like that's kind of my 2 cents.
It doesn't really matter to me either. I think that being the doctor though adds a little bit more of a thing because like he's a doctor. That's rare nowadays. You can find any random Joe to pick up a gun and be a gunman. Anybody
Yeah,
can do
and he was unarmed.
that. And he was unarmed, which is the whole thing that Abby, says to Joel. Um there hasn't been like a lot of online buzz about the change. If anything, I feel like people actually like that they're revealing it more, but also again, in the video game, you start off as Ellie, and the whole point is that you meet up with Abby, and this is one of the bigger changes from the game. Dina's not with Joel when Joel dies in the game. It's
Oh,
Tommy.
really?
It's Tommy. Tommy's with Joel,
Oh.
and
Oh.
it's like
So was Dina, because we follow Tommy a lot in this episode. So I guess that's a question. Does the invasion of the settlement not happen at the same time as Joel's
it
death in the
does.
video game?
It does,
So
but
then,
Tommy's just with Joel and not Dina. And the whole point of it
okay.
is the whole point of the overarching story is that Dina goes with Ellie because Dina cares about Ellie, and she still does here, and
Mm-hmm.
she cares about Joel. They still have a connection. Dina did talk to Joel in the games. They had like this companionship. But here in the show, they had the opportunity to flesh it out more by letting Dina be another daughter-like figure for Joel. And
Mm-hmm.
Dina being put to sleep and then waking up finding out that Joel is dead is going to have another driving impact force to allow
Yeah.
the story to continue with more emotional weight that I don't think the game actually offered. Like when I mean the show's doing everything better than the game right now, I truly believe it. But again, the biggest thing that this is what I was trying to get at when I said that there's not like a lot of talk about online because I don't think people care is there is a massive difference between a video game and a TV show. In a TV show,
Yeah,
you might
obviously.
have to give the audience something because you're not going to spend as much time as you would in a game with a certain character. And in this case, about halfway through game two, part two, you literally switch to Abby's perspective. You're playing as Ellie, and it's this whole vengeance bloodlust to go after. This is kind of a spoiler for you for later in the game. She's going after Tommy, who's already gone rogue, to go find Abby and kill Abby because
Yeah.
he feels the loss of Joel. I mean, that's a spoiler, but also, come on, that's
Not
going to happen.
shocking.
It's not shocking. And about halfway through the game, after you've gone through this whole bloodlust quest revenge, you switch and you play as Abby for another half of the game, and you see all the
Yeah,
events
I
from her
did know
perspective.
about that. I guess that's the only other big thing that I know about is that you play as Abby. So I'm really interested to see how they adapt that to the TV show, because my guess is that that's going to be season 3 of The Last of Us. Is that this season will
Probably.
probably end right before the perspective changes, and we'll start off next season following Abby. Is my guess.
Or it might be a very chronological order, which I'm, again, because it's a TV show, it might make more sense to be chronological as opposed to just constantly going back and forth over long period gaps and then let the audience lose interest because of long period gaps. The only thing, there are some things that I do know that are in this show that are different. Like, I know we're having a whole episode dedicated to Joe Pantoliano as Eugene, Gail's husband, and that's going to be a
Which
whole
we get a little
prequel
bit of in
episode.
this episode as well.
But we're getting a whole prequel episode dedicated to that, in which Pedro Pascal as Joel will definitely be a part of, and obviously Ellie's going to be a part of. And we got multiple flashbacks that are from the game. There's one specifically that happens at the end of Game 2 that will happen probably at the end of Season 3 once the story is all wrapped up. But the show really tries to change your perspective about Abby even earlier on, because as much as you don't like that Joel's going, you have to, as an audience member, understand why it's happening. And I think that they do it better here than they did in the game. I think, let's not dwell on Joel's death too much. Let's also mention the good things that happened. The Battle of Jackson is very cinematic. It's very reminiscent of a battle that happens later in Game of Thrones called Hardhome, with all the White Walkers that will come later. And it's really, really cool. It's in this whole winter setting. It's epic. It's sick. And it's very similar here. With just various different things. Tommy fighting the bloater was just insane, dude. Holy shit.
I wrote Big Chungus in my notes. That's what I call the bloaters, is Big Chungus. I'm looking at my notes again. I wrote that's an unbelievable amount of infected, because holy shit. I just wrote the words flamethrower squadron, which I want to point out. 2 of those bitches ran away immediately. They didn't even turn on their flamethrowers. They just went, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Yeah.
I also wrote down they were very, very well prepared for an infected battle, which I think makes total sense. You should be, and I think that's the only reason any of them survived. It was still devastating watching the town get destroyed, and I'm really curious to see where next episode picks up, both in terms of, is there a time gap, what's this look like, but also in terms of how do you recover from this. Obviously there are survivors, but your town is destroyed, your defense is destroyed, tons of people are fucking dead. Where do you go from here? Do you rebuild? Do you move? What do you do?
I think that the thing I specifically just like about this episode is that they really do show the Battle of Jackson, and you don't see any of the Battle of Jackson in the game. You see barely any of it. You hear about it, and that's pretty much it. It's as far as I can remember. Maybe there might have been something that I just don't remember about, but I'm pretty sure you never see the Battle of Jackson. You hear about it, but you never see it. And so I just think it's very interesting. And I love the choice to let Tommy stay back and be a leader. It really shows a big change in his character arc. And
I loved watching Tommy take charge and stand his ground. Again, I kind of was thinking that Tommy might die. I was actually my heart was racing watching Tommy be put in the predicament that he was with Big Chungus with the bloaters.
The only reason I knew Tommy wasn't gonna die was purely just because if they're gonna kill Joel, they're not killing Tommy.
I mean, that's fair, but also I wouldn't put it past this show. This show is one thing that so I did want to make mention that a big difference so far in this. And I don't know what this looks like for the rest of the series, but season 1, you barely have any infected. I mean, the biggest infected, you have one-offs here and there. The biggest infected, I think it was episode 7, which was the episode with Will and Sam, where
episode
the
5.
infected come out. Episode 5, was it?
Episode 5.
Okay, where they come out of the ground and there's that big horde, but we really don't spend all that much time with it because the show is really just about Joel and Ellie and their journey and the human aspect of surviving an apocalypse. Now, with this season, and at least with this episode specifically, you still have that very human aspect with the conflict of Abby and Joel. But you also have the realities of, no, this is still like, this isn't just a world with no infected. The infected are still very much a threat, and they establish the infected as a threat. Obviously, we have last episode with the intelligent infected being like this new big, like, oh my God, what is this going to be? But you don't just have that. In this episode, you have the bloaters, you have your regular infected, and you have a
Yeah.
very large quantity of it, really harkening back to something like The Walking Dead, which is very well known for its giant set piece zombie battles with a bunch of zombies coming in. I know that's
Right.
not the entire show, but you do have a
No,
lot
no.
of
I
that.
get what you're saying. I get what
Um,
you're saying.
and that's something that this show hasn't, it's done once, and I don't know if it's going to happen again, but it happens very early in the season to remind you, no, like the humans are not the only threat. Like, yes, you're dealing, and that's, I guess, an interesting thing that this episode does is it shows you both the major threats all at once. It shows you the human aspect with Abby, and it shows you the infected aspect with the giant battle on the settlement.
Yeah. Again, the thing I love about season 1 of Last of Us is that the whole season is the story of hope, and it's the story of figuring out or finding somebody in the when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light. It's looking for the light
Yeah.
in the darkness of this world. And the second game, or season 2, and I guess technically 3, is the story about a cycle of revenge. And how far are you willing to go into that to avenge somebody who you've lost? And I think both stories are very well executed when done right with each other. And so far they've done it right. The last thing I will say about this episode is that I think it is a, if you get past it, you take your deep breath and you you rip off the band-aid and you've had time to think about it. I think this is probably a 10 out of 10 episode of a
Oh yeah,
television
no.
show. It is the
It
highest rated
it's
episode of the show on IMDb right now.
fantastic episode, and it's not just because you have the big emotional beat of Joel's death. It's really just because it does a fantastic job of making you care. It does again, it has the dual like conflict of this episode, and it really spends a good amount of time on both of them.
Yeah.
And I'll end this on a little bit of a lighter note. You have Jesse, this scene where Jesse, and this is where like you feel like, oh yeah, this is just gonna be another episode of The Last of Us. Like everything's happy go lucky, and then things go to shit so fast. I laughed out loud with the scene of Jesse and Ellie when Jesse comes to wake Ellie up for the thing, and Jesse is like pretending like, oh, you kissed her, you bitch, you kissed my, we just broke up. And Ellie's like, you can see the actual panic on Ellie's face. And then Jesse's like, nah, I'm just pulling your leg. I already knew. I don't give a fuck. And it's like,
I don't
oh
care.
God. Like I love that scene. One, because it was funny, but also it just goes to further make you like, when big emotional beats happen with these characters, you care. And this is
Yeah.
why you care, is because they're
Yeah.
not just an NPC in the background. Like Jesse's a character we don't get a ton of. Like we get a good amount of him, but he's obviously not a main focus of the show. But if something were to happen to Jesse, like I would care. And it's because of scenes like this. Like if they
Sure.
only had the scenes of him being like kind of like the leader and telling Ellie what to do and things like that, like okay,
It
cool. Like
wouldn't
if
be as
something happens to
impactful.
him, it wouldn't
Right.
impact as much. But just this one scene, and you get a lot of these one-off scenes with characters of just Jesse being like, I'm pulling your leg, like whatever. Because that also
Right.
builds into what happens with I guess I said I was going to talk about one more thing, but this kind of plays into the same thing of Seth apologizing. And I think he was he kind of seemed very genuine about his apology, but Ellie didn't give a fuck. And I'm not saying she has to forgive him, but it is a very, I really liked that scene because you could see a man who was like, I fucked up, like I was drunk, like I'm sorry. Is he actually sorry? You don't really know. It
I
kind of
think
feels
I
like he is,
well, I think
but
I think you're describing exactly how the show wants you to feel, which is
yeah,
he actually
exactly.
apologizing? They want you to question him because that's how it is with normal people. Are you actually sorry, or are you just saying you're sorry because you have to?
Yeah, you never really know.
Um, and so I don't know. It goes back to show that this show, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mason, round of applause. You are masters at your craft, and you did a phenomenal job bringing this world to life, this story to life. And as of right now, although I fucking hate you and you ripped my heart out, please don't ever come across me or I will shoot you in the face. Um,
Let's not threaten people, but yes, I understand.
let's not threaten people on the podcast, please. That's not really. There was a video that went around on my Instagram of people. They're the background's the Last of Us world, and they're walking around. They're like, oh, excuse me, are you Abby? Yeah, I'm just just pulling a gun on Abby,
Yeah,
killing her.
honestly though, valid crash out, valid understanding. The first thing I did after watching this episode, other than go to the bathroom and like dry heave, was I turned on Koi's review of this episode,
Mm.
and the look of defeat on this man's face when he's trying to get through the intro, well, very clearly just having finished watching this episode, you could see the red on his face. I was like, this man is. I feel so bad for this man right now. He is not he does not know the game. He did not know this was going to happen. Poor man did not deserve this.